President Biden likes to portray himself as the uniter-in-chief, but he's catching a lot of flack over a very divisive commencement speech. Biden was addressing the graduating class at a historically black college, Howard University, and focusing a lot on race.
We know that American history has not always been a fairy tale. A harsh reality that racism has long torn us apart. It's a battle that's never really over. Enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us, to choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat, to stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did in my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Wow. All right. I'll start with you, Martha. You know, Biden's approval rating right now among blacks is at 52%. When he first took office, I believe he was at 82%. So I suspect this race-baiting nonsense that he's promoting is not doing him a service.
I think you're right. I mean, I think that there's been movement in the black vote over the last several presidential elections. I think that, you know, I think that most people in this country want to be treated, in the words of President Obama, as not a black America or a white America, but the United States of America. And it would be really nice to hear the president, who ran on a platform of uniting the country, really focus on that we have much more in common than what divides us, right? I mean, wouldn't that be, honestly, I think his poll numbers would go shooting higher if he took that kind of perspective and encouraged those individuals who were having that graduation ceremony. I commend all of them to embrace that in their lives as they move forward and, you know, urge excellence for everybody.
You know, Jesse, Biden didn't talk like this in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. In fact, it was just the opposite. Why all of a sudden is white supremacy the biggest threat when race relations have improved?
Yeah, he used to talk at Klan members' funerals, from what I remember. No, they're going to keep trying to divide us. This is a very good school. If you graduate from Howard University, you are going places. You are going to be working for white people, and white people are going to be working for you. So to have the president come there and feed them this stuff like they're victims of white supremacy is such a disappointment. And you know what the biggest domestic threat is to young black men in this country? Other young black men with guns. And that's the truth. And if you just talk raw numbers, you got health issues to worry about. Coronavirus killed 1 million people. You got absent fathers, education issues. Maybe there's a mass shooter who's a white supremacist a couple times a year. But in terms of the biggest threat to these very, very intelligent black people that have the world at their fingertips, this is not something I would be drilling into their heads. And this is something that proves that white supremacy is not what people think it is. They rank all of the ethnicities on income in this country. Indian Americans make $100,000 a year on average. Filipino Americans, Japanese Americans, Chinese Americans all make more money on average than white Americans. Hispanic Americans make more money on average than African Americans. And it's all based on education. It's not white supremacy that's the determining factor, it's education.
You know, Jessica, I think it's borderline abusive the way Biden promotes this in the schools, so that young white kids are made to feel that, you know, any positivity that they have for themselves is really the result of white supremacy. It's really the result of their being privileged. It's almost taking away the pride that they can have in themselves.
So, first of all, I don't think that there's anything that President Biden could say that you guys would particularly like. I have never heard you pay him an oratorical compliment or said that he really struck the right tone. Something is always wrong. And this is consistently what he talks about, and it's rooted in truth. So both Attorney General Merrick Garland and Secretary Mayorkas have talked about that the greatest threat to America comes from domestic terrorists that are motivated by racial supremacy of white people. That's just the facts about who is killing. You say it's a shooting every once in a while. We're what? 10 days past the Allen, Texas outlet mall shooting, right, with a guy swastikas on him that goes in there and takes off little kids' faces. We have manifestos of people who go into Walmarts and say that you want to get rid of brown people. And it is a serious threat. And he's trying to draw a distinction between how his administration and how he sees the world versus a previous administration, what could be a new administration coming in, who doesn't seem to be bothered by it at all. And there are a tremendous amount of achievements that the Biden administration has done in improving the lives of Black people in America, the lowest Black employment rate right now, the investments in HBCUs like Howard University, stuff they're doing through the infrastructure bill. And that's what he's trying to do. And that ABC Washington Post poll is a complete outlier in terms of support. And first of all, Trump beating Biden, but in terms of Black support, Latino support, et cetera. So we'll see where that goes. But that number is off.
ABC's poll is not accurate. You don't think it's consistent?
I think if there is a trend line from it, but there was a poll that came out the next day that showed the exact opposite findings. They were 30 points off from a normal.
Greg, you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I just think it's time that white people stop lying to Black people, right? Why do we lie to them? Why do we tell them, hey, when you get out into the real world, this is what you're going to face? That's a lie. It's an outright lie. White supremacy is not a threat to them. If you look at the ADL, who are very biased towards labeling everything a racist act, they found 25 murders, I guess, in 2022 attributed to extremism out of 26,000 homicides. 25 murders, two mass shootings. So it's rare, it's ugly, it's rare, but it sure as hell ain't the number one threat. That is the most obvious lie you could come up with. So he is lying. You have to ask, why do you lie to Black people? Why do you lie to Black people? Why do liberals feel that they have to do that? Because they need to keep Blacks angry. They need to keep Blacks close to them, right? This does not serve Black people. If it doesn't serve Black people, it doesn't serve white people either, because it creates conflict. The people who need to cleave Blacks from whites do so because they realize there is profit in discontent. They're rent-seeking. As long as there's a problem, whether it's racism or whether it's homelessness. $1 billion went to homelessness. We don't know where it went, because you need a persistent crisis in order to keep your job. Consultants and corporations, right? Activists. You got to keep this lie going. And once Blacks walk away from this lie, oh, they're going to be happy, but they're going to be pissed. And I'm so going to be there for that.
Amen. Up next, well, this is rich. Socialist Bernie Sanders cashing in on his book that bashes capitalism.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.